vampires, werewolves, a human named Stu, and a sociopathic film crew. We watch What We Do in the Shadows, and this is what we had to say. Viago, Deacon, and Vladislav are vampires who are finding that modern life has them struggling with the chore wheel, trying to get into nightclubs, and overcoming flatmate conflicts. It's our Not So Halloween special, everybody. Welcome. So, joining me this week is Sasha Reid, Andrew Grayson, Joseph Boone, and, very exciting, it's our very first guest of the season. Here to talk about our upcoming film Charlotte, we've got co-creator and Charlotte herself, Georgia Conlan, and co-creator and director Martin Hardwick. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks. Hey!
Now, there's no audience to welcome you with a clap. So, we look forward to talking to you all about Charlotte later on the show, but first you've got to suffer through our chat, I'm afraid, and play some games, and then you can talk all about Charlotte later on. So, I'm going to throw things straight across to Sasha, because Sasha, this is your pick. Yeah, this is your choice for the film club for this season. So, why this film? Tell us.
Okay, I just think it's, first of all, it's a good contrast to what we've just done. So it's a bit more comedic, a bit more fun. And also, like we said, it's a nod to Halloween. Halloween's just passed, as well as like bonfire night and stuff, so I thought it'd be quite cute. Also, I've always loved Flight of the Conchords, and I think like watching their stuff kind of led me more to watching some like Taika Waititi kind of things. And it turned out that like not long ago I was watching an episode and I was like, oh my god, this is Taika Waititi directed my favourite episode of Flight of the Conchords. So it's like there's more and more things that I kept seeing that he did that I really enjoyed. Also, I think Flight of the Conchords and What We Do in the Shadows have got very similar kind of senses of humour. It's like dry, awkward, and the characters, they're so ridiculous, but you just love them and you want to keep watching and seeing what they're going to do next and what kind of mischief they're going to get up to. So yeah, I thought that was kind of a main reason. Also, they're the most least intimidating vampires you've ever seen in your life. So it's quite fun to watch that and see what goes down. Also, I like the fact that like Taika Waititi and his gang, like kind of like Rhys Darby, Jermaine Clement, Brett McKenzie, all of them, they're all kind of, they've got like their wee kind of gang and they do a lot of similar things, whereas you've got like Adam Sandler stuff and Will Ferrell stuff, and it's really nice to see a bit of a different type of comedy, and more of that's coming out now, so I wanted to maybe talk a bit more about that as well. So I thought this would be a good choice, and let's go for it.
Awesome. Andrew, I believe you're a first timer for this film, so we are now calling this the Stirrup Special on the show. As for those of you who don't know, Paul Stirrup is one of the co-hosts on the show, who's not on the show this week, and I hired him, and we've come to discover lately that he's seen basically no movie ever. So Andrew, tell us what your first thoughts about this film then.
It's the first one we've reviewed I really enjoyed.
There we go.
I loved this film. I'm not surprised that I liked it. I love Taika. Like, obviously, I've seen a lot of his films. We've done The Vote with like Thor Ragnarok and Jojo Rabbit. He also directed one of my favourite Mandalorian episodes in the first season.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I had so much fun with this. Me, my wee brother, and my dad watched it. It's my sense of humour. It's daft. It's goofy. I thought there was a good mix between, like, with the special effects and stuff like that. Like, some of it was really like goofy and laughable, but then there was some really nice, legit scary moments. Like, there's one part when he's in Nick's and telling everyone he's a vampire, and the guy goes, "Oh, show me a trick," and he goes proper vampire, and it's terrifying. It was actually quite scary, but no, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm now desperate to actually watch the TV series that's spun off from this.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll talk more about the TV series a little bit later on, yeah, and see what people think of both of those. Yeah, definitely would recommend. Definitely recommend. It's really, really good. Joseph, had you seen this film before, or is this
multiple times? It is one of my favourite comedies. If you want to class it as a comedy, I've got it sort of. It's a comedy slash mockumentary slash coming of age film, really, if you want to kind of think of it that way. It's mockumentary styles are one of my favorite things, just because I love how it feels quite improv, because the film was basically improv, with like loads of hours shot, but that's a fact that you can tell later. And I love how it's that, over the shoulder camera perspective, and you're catching people in these really awkward, intimate moments that are not scripted. And it works so well to completely subvert the whole vampires are these big, evil, kept in the shadows, sometimes really alluring and sexy creatures, but they're just these three Muppets that live in a flat together. And it works so well. And even though this was like my fourth time seeing it, I was still howling with laughter at certain bits. And there's some bit like you're saying, Andrew, like the jump scares, they do still get you. And I think it's got that perfect blend of comedy, lightheartedness, quite serious tonal moments as well, and that sort of underlying fear factor as well.
Awesome. Georgia and Martin, so welcome to the show. First time seeing this film, or is this one that you've enjoyed in the past, or what your kind of first
this morning?
Yeah, we watched it this morning. Never heard anything about it.
It reminds me of a little bit Mighty Boosh kind of tone to it.
Yeah.
I remember Flight of the Conchords when they used to do the stand-up and stuff like that, but I've not seen anything of the show or anything like that since. I just remember their musical stand-up stuff from ages ago, but yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I think I didn't expect it to be a mockumentary. So as soon as broke the fourth wall, I was like, yes, because we just are obsessed with documentaries, aren't we? And it was just so different, I think, because I've seen a lot of Tiger's work, but more recent. So obviously you saw Ragnarok and then Jojo Rabbit. So already I knew it was going to be a comedy because I think that's kind of his style. But when it was a mockumentary, I think, it's just fully improv. But I think when you've got actors that are going to just completely commit to it, you just feel relaxed watching it because you just it's not going to be that kind of cringy. It's just not funny because you kind of know a history of his work. And then once you just see them go fully committing to it, the first 3 minutes in, you're like, oh, right, I can relax and just enjoy this now. But yeah, we really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved the werewolves. Oh my God. Yes, werewolves. I couldn't hear it. I was like, werewolves with werewolves. I was like, oh my God.
Werewolves, yeah. Apparently, that spin-off film was in development, kind of. Apparently, it's titled "We're Wolves." So already love it. Yeah. So hopefully that goes ahead when things get back to normal. I think that's one of his next projects that's coming up for that spin-off, which would be great. I hope they do get Anton. What's his name again? The guy who played Anton.
Rhys Darby.
Rhys Darby. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love him. He's awesome. He was really funny in this role for sure. So I hope we get him back. But yeah, definitely. We mentioned there Taika. Obviously, Taika's just completely blown up in the past few years with Thor and Jojo Rabbit. But obviously, for him, it's been a gradual process. This film was made in 2014. This film was originally, I think, a short film a long time ago. They were trying to make this film for about 9 years, I think. Does this one? And obviously, he got some success in New Zealand with things like Boy and Hunt for the Wilder People and all these kind of films. So it's quite interesting for us, actually, especially at this level that we're at now, the ones who we're all emerging filmmakers and actors and writers and all these things. So it's great, I think, actually to finally see the progression of someone. Because I think a lot of the times you see people just burst onto the scene, or you've never heard of them until they do one big film, or you don't really know much about them. But for Taika, for me anyway, for sure, I can actually trace his journey as a filmmaker from way back to all the way where he is now. And I think with these films, you see it's one of his films. He's got just such a fingerprint on all these films, and you know it's one of his. And I just wanted to open the floor to everybody. Just did you notice anything in particular? Because you were mentioning George and Andrew as well. You were mentioning Taika's later work that you're more into, Thor Ragnarok, for example. Did you see any similarities between those films and the film, this one?
I think there's an underlying it's just fun. Whenever you watch anything that he's got his fingerprints on. There's always just an element of fun in it. Thor, me being a massive Marvel fan, the first couple of Thors I enjoyed, but when you got to Ragnarok, the character just took on a completely different thing. He became a fan favourite at that point because he used Chris Hemsworth's comedy chops. He brought out characters like the Hulk and made him funny. He wasn't just something that was just going to smash a building. And then when you take Jojo Rabbit, you're taking, obviously vampires aren't real, but like you take a serious subject and he just puts a fun spin on it. We're sitting watching vampires arguing about doing the dishes. Throwing a masquerade ball. This is one of the bits I laughed my head off at. He throwing a masquerade ball at a bowling club. I was wetting myself when they come round the corner and it was like, oh, Victoria's bowling club. I was nuts. So it's just this idea where it can take things like Jojo Rabbit, very, very, very serious subject. And that was such a fun movie and it had emotional parts and really serious parts, but you just seem, even when you hear the actors talking about him as a director, they always say so much fun. He loves a bit of improv. He always likes to add a bit of levity to the set. I just think when you look through his body of work, the big thing for me is it just looks so much fun. It would be a set that you would love to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as well with like Ragnarok, him like with Loki and Thor, he did a lot of improv comedy with them, like the play dead kind of thing that they did in it. And I think that's one of my favourite parts of the film because I'm like a huge Marvel fan. And Ragnarok to me was very much like, you know, listening to the audience of today and what they like, and they like realism, but obviously it's Marvel, so it's going to be special effects and superheroes, etc. But those little bits of comedy, it was really like evident, and I think that's why that's one of my favourite Marvel films from that. And then when you look into it and you see the behind the scenes of them just improv in it, and when he's talking about like that snake that came off, and there's so many different takes of it, and it's like you can just tell that was the, you know, the director's choice to be like, well, you know, just give it what you want, and then it gives that actor who's played the role for so long, he's not restricted in that kind of, well, you know, this is what I am, this is Thor, this is kind of my boundaries. It just let him play with it, which then shone through, because then when you're watching it, you're enjoying it. And I think that, you know, in Taika's work, it is very improv based, but still, like you said, it has serious elements and touching elements to it. So it's not just all like, you know, the mockumentary style. But I think you can see his journey from where he's kind of started. And I think with, you know, the film that we're talking about, he, you know, it's kind of a niche kind of audience. I think you either love it or you hate it. And I think he's just committed to that. And he's not changed to what the Hollywood standards are. So in his films now, you know, he's doing the big Hollywood films, but there's elements of him in it. So he's staying true to his style throughout. And I think he's just not let somebody go, no, I don't think that's a mockumentary about vampires. Probably not going to work. But he's gone for it anyway. And I think that's why he is where he is now, because he's just completely gone and it's different. And you can tell one of his pieces automatically by the comedy and the bits of improv, I think. So, yeah, it does give you hope as a filmmaker.
I think bits of improv and comedy in any film makes it more real.
Yeah.
Because there's comedy in any situation. Like we've sort of experimented with that, haven't we? We've got bits, even though it's a really dark drama thriller that we're doing.
Yeah.
Put little bits of comedy in there, and a lot of it is.
It feels more real, yeah.
And I think it just makes. I don't know, just improv especially just makes things more realistic because you word things as you do in real life and stuff like that. So I think anything like that has even if it's not been improvised, if it's got that sort of feel to it, it always like makes things a lot more real feeling.
Yeah.
And it makes you get lost in the story better, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that brings me to the first fun fact here about this film. As Joseph, you were kind of alluding to it already, but 125 hours of footage was shot for this film. That's how much improv was done. 125 hours. And it took them nearly a year to edit it all down to that hour and a half film that we shot.
Oh my
So
God.
that is mental. Literally, like, what a fun experience that must have been though as an actor, just to kind of just go out and just have fun and improvising. Well, honestly, that'd be so much fun to do. So, shall we play our first game? I think we should play our first game. So we are obviously on a Halloween special here. So all the games are Halloween themed. We're going to start with one of these. It's not like the others.
Right. Okay, so since we're talking about vampires, I decided to have a wee look through the web and figure out what celebrity actually hasn't played a vampire. So I've got 4 people here, and you need to tell me who you think has not played a vampire.
Nope.
Okay, so we're going to start with this is like the ladies of the acting world. So there's Sharon Tate, there's Grace Jones, there's Angelica Houston, and there's Monica Bellucci. So I'll say it again. There's Sharon Tate, there's Grace Jones, there's Angelica Houston, and Monica Bellucci. So who has not played a vampire?
This is not my game. This is
I know, I was like, whoa, what? Yeah, what? It's quite fun looking up, to be honest.
Didn't Angela play the witch, that Grandad Witch in Witches?
Yeah, she's played a witch,
She's played a witch.
Yeah.
She's played a
I'm
vampire.
just thinking if she played a vampire, so maybe I'm thinking that might be a bit confusing. Like, it might.
the red herring.
Yeah.
Maybe her.
I've got no idea. I don't know if any of them have played a vampire. I think for me, honestly, I have no idea completely.
No, 3 of them have played one and 1 hasn't. So I think, Martin, you are the closest, and I think you are correct. Yeah, Angelica Houston, she's not played a vampire. The rest of them have. Actually, in an interview with the vampire, the director kind of was thinking maybe we could switch and do switch the genders for 2 women to play it instead of 2 men, because it was Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. And that was a wee chat that they had, but eventually the writer was like, no. So, but Angelica Houston and Cher were up for the running for doing that. So that would have been quite interesting to see that as a film. I've got another round if you fancy.
Yeah,
we need to redeem ourselves here, right, Andrew?
Okay, so these are the gentlemen. Which one has not played a vampire? So we've got Pedro Pascal, we've got Nicolas Cage, we've got John Travolta, and we've got Luke Wilson.
Surely Cage has played a vampire.
Yeah,
and Travolta is a vampire in real life, so I'm leaning towards Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
So you don't think he's played a vampire?
I don't.
And you guys think that Nicolas Cage has?
I'm going to go.
Surely.
I'm going to say Travolta hasn't.
Okay.
Oh,
This is fun watching.
I'm out.
So, yeah, Andrew is correct. John Travolta, although people think he is a vampire, has not played a vampire. But another fun fact about Interview with the Vampire is that they actually had written a full script based with him playing one of the characters on it. But yeah, no, Pedro Pascal actually played a vampire in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
So he did. Oh, I should have known that as well.
Yes. So yeah, that was quite. Because I genuinely thought John Travolta would have played a vampire, and I was like trying so hard to make sure I was finding everything, and then it just kept being like, no, he is a vampire. And I'm like, no, has he played a vampire? That's what I need to know. Whether or not he is different. So yeah, that's my little game for you guys.
Disaster, right? A disaster on my part. There, geez, honestly, I should stick to just hosting the game from now on. Right. So we talked a bit about how it's a very unique take on a very, let's face it, overdone genre. This film, what we did in the show, is very, very like even a mockumentary as well. They're both quite things that have been done a lot in different ways. But he's found this unique way of doing it. He's found this unique way of putting a spin on the vampire genre, especially in this time. This is 2014, I think, when this film was made, and they were actually even concerned. Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi were actually concerned because they've been trying to make this film, as I said, for 9 years, and over that time, Twilight came out, and then that big massive burst of all these kind of films started to come out. So they were getting a bit concerned, like, is this just going to fall through the cracks? But because it's such a unique take on it, that's why I think it's successful, and also it's now pretty much a cult hit, I would say, for sure. But just out of interest, what's everyone else's favourite other takes on vampire films and TV shows? Anyone got any kind of standout shows or films that they really like in terms of how vampires are being portrayed on screen?
I'm not really a big horror person. The one that comes to mind that I've watched probably more than others, and I think it's considered not to be a very good film, is Van Helsing.
I love Van Helsing. I thought Van Helsing was great.
We've got to do that film one day.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think my favourite take has got to be the Castlevania Netflix series. It's not film per se, but it's animated, and I think it stays true to the genre it's trying to emulate, but also it's kind of what We Do in the Shadows does well. It's not focusing on this is not a vampire film. This is not man versus vampire to save woman sort of thing. This is a vampire versus the environment it's in. And I think that's what We Do in the Shadows does really well. And that's kind of a similar sort of thing with Castlevania.
What's that Tarantino film called?
Dusk Till Dawn? Well,
yeah, that was really... I ended up watching that by accident. So it just started, and so I didn't know anything about it. And then it just seemed like a normal Tarantino film. Then all of a sudden, vampires everywhere.
I always thought that was like a Western. And then eventually I watched it and was like, oh, I was very wrong. So, I like Bram Stoker's Dracula. My mum had it on videotape when we were younger, and she's like, don't, because I kept saying, oh, can we watch that? And she's like, no, you're too young to watch it. And I'm like, oh, please, can you just watch it? And she's like, no. And one time she was out, and me and my wee brother were like, we just watch it. Put it on, and we're absolutely distraught. We were like, what is going on here? We watched that movie, and she's like, right, I told you. And we're like, can we sleep with the light on? And she's like, they're not real. And I'm like, I don't know about that. So I think that's why it just sticks in my head forever. And also, Gary Oldman's in it. Like, oh, Jesus, what could you not love about that? So
I love Being Human, the TV series back in the day. The BBC series.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I loved that show. Absolutely loved it. I love the way they portrayed the vampires as the kind of the addiction and like the quest to find that balance between falling into that evil way of being a vampire or trying to, as it so suggests, being human. Yeah, I loved it, and I love Herrick. Jason Watkins' performance is just incredible. That's one of the performances actually that inspired me to be an actor back in the day, actually, and to play as I get usually cast as all these psychopathic, horrible people roles. So my typecasting is that. I loved the performance. I love just the evil with a twinkle that he brought to it. It's absolutely brilliant. And I love Jason Watkins in general. Just he's brilliant in everything. Just I'd watch him in anything. So I'm going to call it there for part one. Join us for part two as we discuss more about what we do in the shadows and play a few more games. Well, part two. So here we go. Let's talk about Stu. We've got to talk about Stu. The main himself. He has got to be one of my favourite comedic characters in a film. He's definitely up there. He's in the top 10 for sure. The best thing though, the fun facts surrounding Stu are absolutely amazing. I thought the face-off episode was going to be the best fun facts, but honestly, nothing prepared me for this. I was crying with laughter reading through interviews with this guy, him and Jermaine Clement doing the press for this, and just learning all about this man. So, Stu, right? Not an actor. Stu actually is what you see in the film. Stu is a computer analyst guy, and that's actually who he is. That's his real life job. He's a part-time computer analyst, right? So the story goes. I'm piecing together all these things from what I've been reading, but the story goes that Stu was Taika's roommate back in the day, right? And he gradually was helping Taika with all these films and stuff. He was coming on and being a runner, he's been a production assistant and all these things. And I think for this film, Taika was like, here's a coffin, can you store it in your room? And he was like, yeah, okay, no bother, yeah. And then and he was an extra in one of Taika's earlier films, Boy. He had like a 4 or 5 second cameo in that. And he got hired onto What We Do in the Shadows. Now this, I think, epitomises Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement here. So apparently, this is what I've read, apparently they told him that he was coming on to be like a tech guy behind the scenes, doing all the computer stuff, the crew stuff, being a runner and all these things, and he might get like a small cameo in the film. So Stu rocks up onto set, and they go, "Oh no, you're a main character. On you go, on you go. Get in, get in. Like not only your main character, like number 5 on the call sheet, on the poster. He had absolutely no idea. Rocks up, and he gets shoved in. But this is the thing, as we were saying before, in this situation, it works because of the improvisation of the whole thing, and it's a natural feeling. And for Stu's character, right, he's us. He's the audience. He's the normal person in this environment where he's just like, what the hell's going on the whole time? And that's who we are, and that's who you identify with. That's who you empathise with. So you do have this warm feeling towards him, and I just absolutely love the character. What do we think about? Well, you can tell me about Stu, of course, but what do you think about Stu and also just the other performances in the film itself? Because obviously, Jermaine Clement had been around for a little bit. Taika had done a bit as well, acting-wise. But what do you kind of think of all the kind of performances in the film? Open the floor to anybody.
It's just.
Go first.
On you go, Sasha. On you go. Okay, I think it's cracking. I think just Stu himself is just, you can see he's just awkward and just like he's really just not sure what to do. But that lends itself to the nature that Taika Waititi is trying to capture with this film. But also just the other sort of the human actors as well are just brilliant. The 2 police officers that come in during the disturbance, it's one of those scenes where you're on the edge of your seat because you're like, oh no, the stakes are really, really high at this part of the film because Viago's hypnosis could wear off at any moment and they could catch these vampires, but they're just going around going, oh, there's not a smug detector up there, and there's a fire hazard. Just kind of going around doing that. It's just this wonderful little moment where you're just seeing these 2 police officers just kind of like being just regular beat cops in the midst of all this insanity. And I think my favourite moment has only got Stu and the zombie in it.
Oh yeah.
When they're at the ball, and you're seeing this absolute mosh pit going on where all the vampires and that dancing, swinging each other around. The camera just slowly pans to the right, and there's the mirror, and the zombie's kind of waving like that.
Oh, that was
just
such a good
the zombie and Stu in the mirror, and I'm howling. I'm howling at this, and like my girlfriend has to like put the scene back. She's like, I missed what happened. I'm like, I don't care. But I think just all the supporting actors I think in this film are just as good as the main cast, and I think that's what Taika does really, really well in his films. There's not it's not a leading man, leading lady, leading whatever film. It is a complete just ensemble based piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like see like some of the side character, like even just like when they're walking when they first go out, and there's like the 2 wee girls, and he's like, yeah, so you're gonna kill some pedophiles tonight. It's like, yeah, we're gonna kill some pedophiles, and you're like, oh God. And then just that woman who's like eating someone, and she's like, oh, this is oh, excuse me, so just eating my colleague from work, and it's just so like nonchalant and so normal, and just like, oh yeah, just eating my boss. I love how they do it all, and like even like the wee kind of like we looks at the camera like like, oh,
when they couldn't get in the club as well, where they wouldn't invite them in.
You invite us, I'm like, no, fuck off. I thought everyone did great. I love Viago. I think he's my favourite. See, when he first comes out the coffin, I can't stop. He's just like, I think it's one of my favourite scenes. And then when he like goes to wake up Peter, and he's like, Oh, there's just a little spinal column over there. That's gross. No, there's so many funny bits in it, and I think all the cast works so well together. And it's just one of those films you can watch anytime, and just it really cheers you up.
I think my favourite part was when he was doing that erotic dance, but the other two were just like, yes! Just like it was normal, and it was like, he's out the window, and he was just like, you ruined it, thanks. But it was like going on for so long, and there was just nothing, just him, and they were just not reacting like, this is what he always does, like kind of thing. It was just like the norm for them. Yeah, and that was my favourite part, and obviously I liked the werewolves. I thought the performance was great, and I think like I didn't expect to go back to them. So then when it went back to them, I was like, oh my god, yeah. So that just shows that the performances were so strong that you kind of invested in them. So then when they returned, you were like kind of wanting it to their story to progress. And then obviously at the end, it was kind of like a nice little ending where they kind of both came together. And it was like, even though they weren't main characters and a main focus of the story, because the performances were so good and it was like kind of captivating in the comedy, when they kind of returned, you were excited to see him again because you're like, oh my god, these guys are back. Yeah,
that's what the film does really, really well. It's not just, there's not a throwaway joke. It's not like this is here for a quick laugh. It will be expanded on later, even if it is, you know, like the vampire hunter getting to the flat, or the police returning at the end with after the werewolf attack, or just the werewolves themselves coming back, and they're not there for being, you know, werewolves. They're there for, it's a self-help group, which is just a brilliant take on a werewolf back.
When they're training each other up on the trees, it's like, oh, I forgot my lock. He's like, why have you got a combination lock? There's silly things like that.
I think the casting overall was brilliant in the sense of like, as Craig was saying, like there's so many different like mockumentary things out there, but I think it's such a special talent to get comedic. Like I always forget, like Modern Family's a mockumentary, like you forget because it's only they only do go to the camera a couple of times. But for me, I think Ty Burrell is an absolute master. Like, see the wee tiny glances it has at the camera that give you like proper belly laughs. And I think Taika's got the comedy chops, and like as you say, like just as he's rising out, it's the wee kind of it's like awkward, but it works. And I think for me, I don't think there was a weak link. I think they all had that really special comedy talent in the sense of this. It works in that kind of style because I think as much as a mockumentary's hard to go, if it works, it's always brilliant in my opinion. Like you've got things like The Office, Parks and Rec, Modern Family, and now this. Obviously, I've watched this. I think it's such a really, it's a difficult thing to pull off, but if you pull it off, it works tremendously.
Do you find that like when it comes to mockumentaries and stuff, a bit like The Office, and like I suppose Alan Partridge is a little bit like that, although it doesn't really, they don't break the fourth wall or anything like that, but it's kind of, you find that it's when things are more improvised or have that sort of feel, they're more quotable, and you watch them more times. It ends up being like part of your life, and you use quotes like in, you know, amongst friends that are, you know, in on the joke kind of thing. You find that with like The Office a lot, and other films that are, it's a strange thing that happens with improvised stuff. I think because they're not lines that you'd write, they stick in your head more, and then. So I mean, we've only watched it once, but I imagine if you'd watched it a few times, you'd end up sort of, you know, using certain phrases or little.
Yeah.
Well, I guarantee there's at least one phrase that I'm going to be bringing up later that is going to be in my life for the rest of my days, because it is absolutely a bit. In fact, I'm going to tell you now. See, when they were talking about virgins, and he's like, "Oh, it's like when you want a sandwich and you know you're going to enjoy it." I was like, "That's so good."
It's exactly what you're saying. Like the lines themselves, they're not written; they are improvised, so they do stick better. And I think that's what that improv style lends itself really, really well to, because, you know, you could sit for ages and script this and it wouldn't come out as funny because it would just feel like another vampire film where they're trying to do their dark bidding. But then you've got but then you've got this, and it's just it's those little, it's making the mundane seem interesting. When the actual interesting thing is there's these supernatural creatures and vampires, but they're, as we started talking about at the start, they're chatting about doing the dishes.
That's another good quote as well, that where he's doing his dark bidding on the internet.
Yeah.
What are you bidding on? Tell you what.
Well, it's a thing that it was something that Taika and Jermaine Clement really wanted. They wanted that spontaneity. Like apparently they didn't share any of the script or the scenes with the people in the film. They kept that to themselves, and they would just spring it on them on the day, and they had to then obviously interact with what was going on. So it was properly spontaneous and improvised. And you're right, when those things happen, you have all these lines that you like. For example, are you predeceased? Like that's stuck in my head. I love that line. So yeah, it's the little things like that. These are the ones that you really remember, and yeah, it is wonderful just to see. I just like seeing people being creative. I like seeing actors really being let loose and being allowed to have that freedom on set. And I think that's something that obviously Taika and Jermaine Clement they bring in the film. They're allowing their actors, they're trusting their actors to go off and just have a go and see what happens. And as we saw, 125 hours of that is absolutely wonderful. So, next game. I believe we have Andrew up next for a game that we're calling Name That Movie.
Name that movie. Very simple. I'm going to give you a movie quote. You tell me what movie it's from. So obviously we're doing a Halloween theme. We've got some vampire films. We've got some normal, just horror movies. So we'll start you off dead quick. I want to play a game.
Oh, the guy with the cheeks.
So,
Anyway,
I think
that's
I need
it.
to give this to Georgia. The guy with the cheeks is not the name of the film.
No, come on. That's equal credit for Sasha there. No, guy with the cheeks. Yeah, good point.
Again, we'll try. I think this one will be considered a lot easier. I'm your number one fan.
Oh, Misery.
Well done, Craig.
Ah, yeah.
see, I thought The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Tasty, tasty, beautiful fear.
We've got to be The Silence of the Lambs or Anthony Hopkins or something like that.
Nope.
Oh, I think I
No.
know. Oh.
No idea. No idea.
It's from It.
Yeah.
Pennywise.
Yeah.
Go to one. It's 4 in the fucking morning.
Hell's Kitchen.
No. I can give you a clue to this one if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's similar vein. It's a comedy horror film.
No.
It's 4 in the fucking morning.
Oh, Shaun of the Dead.
Yes, well done.
Yeah.
Dave.
The accent, Andrew. It was the spot on
It
accent.
was, yeah. It's the accent. That's all it comes down to. The movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Oh, I know.
I'm rubbish at movie quotes.
Same.
It's not Joker, is it?
Joker, no.
Oh, I was thinking that. Okay.
This is one of, if not the most well-known horror film, I would say, anyway.
Halloween.
Nope.
Oh.
Friday the 13th.
Nope.
I'm sorry.
Listen up.
Psycho.
Nope.
Oh.
It's from Scream.
Oh,
Oh, I've never seen Scream.
And we'll go to this one. Drink from me and live forever.
Interview the Vampire.
Yes, well done,
Yeah.
Sasha.
Awesome.
Wait a minute. All right, okay, we'll go one more because
Yeah, with the
everybody's
teeth.
got everybody's got one, so we'll go one more and see if we can get a winner.
Excuse me.
Have you got 2?
I've got 2.
All right, let's play for the draw then.
A PE teacher, man. Former PE teacher. I'm competitive. Come on.
So this one, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Yes, it is indeed.
We just watched all
We
of
just
them.
watched, literally
All of them.
binge watched all of them live.
Do they hold up? Because I've not seen most of them
No,
for a
no.
while.
No,
No, they don't.
Literally. Oh god,
No.
we've watched all of them, and then now we're on Friday the 13th.
They don't hold the fire.
They don't. Oh god, nothing makes sense. There's no rules. We're like, well, the rules in this one. Yeah.
And that's us for Name That Movie.
Thanks, Andrew. Awesome. I'm just gonna take the win for that one. After my abysmal performance in the first game, I'm quite happy with that. I'm gonna retire from the games there. That's me. I'm done.
It was scary when I was looking up for these quotes because it made me realise how little I know about horror movies. Like, I know it's not my favourite genre, but I was like, I don't know half of these quotes.
No, I don't do much horror either. Actually, no. I mean, this one's fine because it's a comedy, but yeah, it's not really my thing. Yeah, I'm a major gap. That's where my Paul Sturrock gaps are in horror. Yeah, definitely. So we were discussing before the TV show. Has anyone else actually watched the TV show for this spin-off that happened?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen up to episode 8 of the first series. I just watched it like yesterday and the day before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I said, highly recommend. Like, because the thing, it is a spin-off TV show, but Jermaine Clement's still heavily involved. Taika comes in and directs like a few of the episodes, so it's still very much the same kind of vibe as the film. I've interested people who have seen it. Would you prefer the TV show or the film?
I prefer the film. I'm a bit of a grouch when it comes to spin-off things. I don't like because there's definitely a curse when it comes to like mockumentary style things that if it goes on too long, it just loses that improv like magic. Which is why I prefer British Office instead of US Office because it's got those 2 or is it 3 good seasons and then it's perfect. It's done. It's wrapped up. So I hope What We Do in the Shadows doesn't run for too long. Because right now it's good, it's really good. And I don't want it to lose that same magic that it has from the film.
What's it actually on? What can you stream it on?
I'm sure it's on BBC iPlayer because I was looking to.
I prefer the film, but I do like some of the episodes have been hilarious. Like there's one where they drink. I'm not going to ruin anything, but they drink someone who's been taking drugs, and they're like, "Oh, we've had drug blood," just off their face, and it's hilarious. Yeah. So it's just there's lots of wee bits like that that's funny, but I definitely think if you had to pick one, it's definitely the film. The film's fantastic.
See, I didn't realise that it was different people because I thought Matt Berry, like I knew he was in the TV series, so I thought he was in the film, and he looks kind of similar to. So I was like, oh, of course Matt Berry's going to be the Lothario. And then it was like, no, he's in the TV series. So I'm definitely going to watch that.
Yeah,
that's cracking. He's brilliant.
Matt Berry makes that show, man. He is, the standout performance for sure for me. I absolutely love him in it. But the episode that you'll see when you go into season 2, because like this is like they get these amazing guest stars on it because they've got such pull now. Mm-hmm. So in season 2, it's an episode with Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill comes on. And it's essentially a two-hander between him and Matt Berry. It is one of the best episodes of a sitcom or a mockumentary I've ever seen. I was absolutely killing myself laughing. It's so well done. And Mark Hamill, like he's great. He's game for a laugh. Like he just gets on with it, which is great. I love it when you see movie stars coming and like just having a go and buying into the show and not thinking they're too big for it or like having a little wink at it, like they're coming on actually just investing in it and really
that's
working
what it's like with extras, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is my favourite Ricky Gervais series.
Stars they've got in there, like Kate Winslet, like her episode. It's just amazing that you can just see these big Hollywood stars just taking the mick out of themselves. But it's just amazing that like Ricky Gervais is, like kind of was under the radar for a bit, and then The Office, and then he's got these stars like in his show. And I think we watched that recently, didn't we? We watched Extras recently, and I think if they're just committed.
I was obsessed with Ricky Gervais like back when The Office first came out. So I'm 40 now, so I was like in my 20s when that came out. So it's like I would just everything he's done since then I've been obsessed with. So that's why I like the mockumentary style stuff. Yeah. There were a few like shows around that were like it, but yeah, it's just
I think he is the master. You see when he dips in and out of different, like even like stuff like Derek. I don't think it's well known as like The Office, but I think that's one of the best things he's ever made. It's so
They did another one called Life's Too Short, didn't they? With
Yeah, we
that was really good, but no one seemed to latch onto that. But that was really good.
The fun thing I liked that came from extras was that it was obviously with yourself bringing up Kate Winslet. In that episode, he talks about, he gets Kate Winslet to say, if you want an Oscar, you need to make this kind of film. And then she got nominated for it in real life.
Yeah.
The Golden Globes. He's like, I told you, Winslet. You'd have got it.
Also, they had Lionel Blair on the Big Brother episode. Dancing around everywhere. Then he actually went on Big Brother and was actually doing that all the time.
Right, to bring us back to some Halloween, we've got to go for the last game to get us back on the Halloween track. So, Joseph, trick or trivia, go for it.
This game is called Trick or Trivia. I've got 3 questions related to vampire lore, and you've got to decide which one is either the true one or the false one. So it'll depend on the question. So our first one is going to be an easy one for all you English buffs out there. What is the collective noun used for a group of vampires? Is it A, a brood, B, a coven, C, a cult, or D, a root?
I know.
Is it the first one?
A
Right.
brood. Is that what you're thinking?
Is coven not for witches? Cults for weirdos. And
So I've got reasons behind each of these answers if you'd like to hear them.
okay, go for it.
So the reason they're called a brood is a collective noun used for creatures that hatch, like snakes. Vampires were thought to hatch from bloated dead bodies.
Oh.
A coven is also used for witches, as you were correctly saying there, Sasha. Vamps were thought to be, not the band, the Vamps, but vampires were thought to be corrupted witches who rebelled against the church. Cults it's a given. It's a cult. And root it's kind of a more of a different term about how vampirism was thought to be rooted in the blood. Much like how you would kill a weed by pulling out the root, you'd have to drain a vampire's blood. So which one is the correct term?
I'm going to let everyone else give their answer. I think I'm 99% sure I know what it is because I grew up a wrestling fan and there happened to be a wrestling faction called the name of a group of vampires. But I'll let other people decide what they think it is first.
I'm going brood.
Yeah.
Maybe the last one after.
Cool.
No,
The root.
Brood.
Is that what you're thinking?
Andrew, what is it then?
I think it's the brood.
Yeah.
Well, I can say everyone who answered brood is incorrect. It is a coven of vampires.
WWF lied to me.
I'm sorry, it's a coven. There are places that do call it a brood, but the more accepted term is coven.
No, I'm not having that. That's a point then. If people call it a brood.
I'll give you half a point, Andrew, then, for your adamancy.
That sounds like fake news, Joseph. That's like fake news.
We'll take up with the council then. So, second question here. A stake to the heart or a slice of garlic bread could kill a vampire, but which of these methods is not used to combat vampires? Is it A, surrounding a vampire grave with poppy seeds, millet, or sand? B, decapitating the body and placing the head between the feet, behind the buttocks, or buried in a different grave? Is it C, holding a holy symbol or holy book to the bare skin of a vampire? Or D, placing a lemon in the mouth of the corpse to prevent it rising as a vampire?
Where are you finding these, like the ones that aren't true?
I'm making them up.
I hope it's the one that you made up about sticking the thing between the arse.
So all of these have places of origin. Would you like to know the places of origin from each of these?
Yes.
Yeah.
So surrounding the grave, it comes from European / Asian / Indian belief of surrounding the grave because they believe vampires and other such spirits to have a thing called arithmomania, which is this obsession to count things. So decapitating the body, placing it somewhere else was a practice in Germanic and Slavic areas of Europe. holding a holy symbol up to a vampire skin is in a small country known as Barovia. That's a practice. And D, placing a lemon in the mouth was a method from Saxon areas of Germany.
You're taking over fun fact or fake news from now on, by the way, because I've got absolutely no idea what's true and what's a lie, and you're way better than me at this.
It's not true.
It's a lie because
Yeah, which one is not true?
I feel like the
Is
last.
it counting
I
one?
feel
'Cause
like
that's
the
like
last
Sesame
one.
Street.
I'm going lemon. I'm going lemon as well.
I'm
Lemon?
going lemon because I feel
Yeah,
like
I'll go
all
lemon.
the ones associated with it. Then it's like you're a vampire. Just put a lemon in your mouth and you won't be able to get up. Like I just don't know.
Yeah, I'll go lemon too.
I feel like
I'll go for the poppy seed counting because that's a pile of crap. Must be.
Well, I
That's
must
a-
tell you all that you're all incorrect.
Oh no way!
It is actually C, holding a holy symbol to the skin. I stole that from Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, I guess.
It's not really in Dungeons and Dragons. It's something I made up. But the
Not-
arithmomania, that is a believed way of combating vampires. The decapitation was believed, and the placing a lemon in the mouth to prevent the rising was believed as well. They also believed that nailing the body down with stakes made of aspen, which was believed to be the wood that Christ's cross was made of, was another way to combat vampires. And because, you so gracefully mentioned it as well, the final question of trivia. Arguably the most terrifying character to live on the Sesame Street. Count Von Count has exhibited several supernatural powers. Which of these is not a power the Count has demonstrated? Is it A, hypnosis? Is it B, preternatural counting skills? Is it C, pyrokinesis? Or is it D, flight?
You talking about Sesame Street?
He's
Talking
a
about Sesame Street.
Pie, so
I don't think he's set stuff on fire. That would be a bad example for children.
yes,
Well, yeah.
exactly.
So-
See, those are math kids.
Yeah, maths. I'm sure I've seen him count. Well,
Hmm.
I've seen Dave Chappelle pretend to be him and count, so I'm assuming he does count. And he is called the Count, so that would make sense.
What was the first
Yeah.
one?
Hypnosis?
Yeah, I'm going that one.
I'm going fire.
I'm sticking with fire.
Otherwise, I'm writing a strongly worded letter to Sesame Street.
Yeah.
So, Count Von Count has never demonstrated his ability to fly.
Oh.
Did
Alright.
it
That's
go-
not-
Surely somebody's chucked a puppet on Sesame Street before.
I thought that early.
There's no puppets on Sesame Street. They're all Muppets, Andrew. Come on.
Someone chucked a muppet
So,
on.
whenever he counts, there is a flash of lightning, which is considered controlling fire, as lightning is a form of heat, pyrokinesis. So he's never flown, but in the early episodes of Sesame Street, he was shown to hypnotize other Muppets into getting them to count. This power has since then been discontinued. But that is all for Trick or Trivia this week.
I enjoyed it.
Well done, Joseph, mate.
Joseph trying to steal my job as usual. That's fine, no bother. I'm taking note of it. It's okay. That's fine. You'll be on less episodes from now on, I think. Show me up. Yeah. Right. So that's it for part 2. We're going to be back for part 3. Where we're going to be talking all about Charlotte. Welcome back to part 3. Now, we are here to talk about the wonderful upcoming film Charlotte, which is why Georgia and Martin are both here. They've suffered through the chat now, so they are now entitled to. I mean, it's not as bad as Hot Ones, where you've got to eat all the spicy food, then have to get to talk about your things. So at least we do that. So, first question for you, because we've all watched the trailer beforehand, and it looks absolutely brilliant, guys. Absolutely brilliant. Very, very good achievement that you've got going there. So I know that you want to keep the plot under wraps, because obviously from the trailer it looks very mysterious, and the plot is obviously going to be unraveling as the movie goes on, and you want people to experience that. But what can you tell us about Charlotte the film?
See, this is the trouble with this, because it's one of them where, once the setup, has happened. So you can explain how it starts, but then after that,
Yeah.
you kind of left revealing too much. It's
Yeah.
been really tricky to sort
We
of...
can explain how it starts. So basically, it's a thriller drama, and the story centralises around Charlotte, who's a young teenage girl, 12, 13. And so the movie starts, and we kind of follow her walking. So she's ran away from home. She has a very volatile relationship with her dad. He's an alcoholic, he's a bit abusive. And she's quite vulnerable, fragile, and she leaves the house, and then we see her walking a quite secluded area, and
like
then
North Yorkshire, just out in the middle of nowhere kind of
thing. And then it starts to get dark, it starts to rain, she's cold, and I think she then decides she's too far gone, she's a bit lost, and she doesn't have access to a phone, so the only thing she can do is kind of seek refuge from any house that's nearby. Because it is in the middle of nowhere, there is just like one kind of secluded cottage, so she approaches that, and an older man, Roy, who's the other leading character, answers. He's a bit obviously hesitant at first because there's a young kid in the middle of the night at his house crying, saying, please let me stay. So obviously he's kind of stuck between, you know, what he feels is right in the moment, but also, you know, the repercussions of him having a kid in his house in the middle of the night that he knows nothing about. So after a short conversation, he lets her stay. And then from that moment, we start to question whether she was actually safer outside in the middle of nowhere in the dark, because his kindness isn't what it seems. So we learn more things about him that kind of question Charlotte's safety and whether she was actually safer with her abusive dad. So that's all we can say.
That's all we can say, but it's very frustrating because it's not... this is probably there's some really...
What's your film about?
It develops in a very interesting way, but that's all we can say, really.
Yeah.
And that's the problem we've got, because we can't... Because on the surface, it kind of looks quite, you know, kind of bog standard relationship between a young girl and a guy, and it's a bit more than that. That's all we can really say. So we're wanting to hold it back, so that when people watch it, things are, you know,
they learn about it as they kind of go along.
But then it's going to be like, so we've got about 80% of it shot now. We're going to try and do a trailer with the actual footage from what we shot, because the original trailer is just a little promo thing that we made.
Yeah.
Charlotte's outfit's changed since then.
Yeah.
You know, like all that kind of thing. So we're working on a trailer this week, but then again,
we're struggling.
We're going to struggle because if we introduce too many characters or show too much, it could give it away a little bit. So, but yeah, it's been you know, tricky. Every time someone says, "What's it about?"
A school kid, okay? Don't ask me. That's what it's like. But yeah, I think that's the setup of the film anyway. Yeah,
I mean, from the trailer, like, very intriguing. Like, I'm like, yeah, I want to watch this now, definitely, and find out all about Charlotte and what's going on with her for sure. So, how did you two come together to write this together, and also where did the idea come from in general?
Well, I've kind of always wanted to make a film. I always told everyone I'm going to make a film one day, and just never got around to it. I've always done other things like music videos, and ended up getting into kind of filming posh weddings and sort of jetting around doing that. But I sort of one night was just like, right, that's it. I'm gonna make a start kind of thing. So it's pretty much just over a year ago now. I just kind of sat back on this sofa with my phone and just started typing up a bit of a treatment, and it seemed to, the idea just kind of, it was like it were given to me. It weren't like a what can I do with like my limited equipment or locations and stuff like that. It was just an idea that came to me, and then I think I got in touch. Georgia got in touch with me before I'd even written the script. I just got a 15-page treatment for it, and I made like a little poster, put it on Instagram. I didn't have no experience in casting or where to find actors. It was just like a whole new little mission for myself. And then Georgia got in touch pretty early on, because you were kind of...
Yeah, I was kind of stuck. So my background's in musical theatre, and then just about this time last year, maybe a bit before, I just decided I wanted to try and get into TV and film, just because it's something I've always been interested in. But I think when you're down like the theatrical route and you singing, dancing, acting, you kind of get stuck and branded in that, you know, theatre bubble. So I thought the best way to approach it was to kind of, you know, like go on Mandy and do like free student films, try and get some like DIY show reel. And I never knew if I was any good at it or anything like that. I never had any experience. And I realised I was struggling a lot because at the time I was 23, but I looked 10. So it was like, hello, great. So I can't get any child roles because I'm not a child, because they want authentic children. Then I can't get any parts my own age because I look like a kid. So I was like, well, this is failing. So I came across the casting call, and it was like, my favourite genre is like horror, thriller, drama. Like that's my favourite kind of, I love gritty like dramas. And I saw the post, and it was just like, need an experienced like actor, although that's not really essential, must be like over 21 but must look 12. I was like, oh my god, thank you, this is the only thing that's ever going to happen, where it's like, Georgia, there you go, child but needs to be over 21. So I was like, hello there, so this is just, I'm just here now, so please accept my CV. And he was like, oh yeah. I was like, no, just please.
It was really strange though, because as you know, when you're writing, you kind of picture the characters in your head, what they look like. And when I looked at George's show reel, it was like, oh, that's the girl. That's actually the girl. And I didn't even want you to self-tape for it or anything, because I thought that's her. That's the girl that needs to be in the film. But then after this, we got together with another actor, and I'd just booked an Airbnb from like Friday till Sunday, and we shot like the first 20 pages of my script. And then over time, after when we were doing the Indiegogo and stuff, it was kind of like, it just weren't feeling right. I think we both knew George is really talented at writing and coming up with stories. So I was like, well, do you want to rewrite it with me and we'll remake it, kind of thing? And that's what this last year's been. It's been just, we put off writing it for so long. I think we'd cast the whole thing and you know, got locations sort of before we'd even written the actual script.
Yeah.
So I think we'd given the script out like about a week before we were due to film the first.
2 weeks. But I think it worked in our favour because we had the actors, so we knew who was saying what. So when it came to developing each individual character's language, we know what actor was going to portray it. So
all their accents.
Yeah, and I think with lockdown as well, we started casting in January, and we didn't actually fully have a cast until like July. So it was like we had the time to really work with the actors and get the right people for them parts. So then when we came to writing it, I think we printed it out at draft 7, I think. Yeah. But we knew what actors were playing which characters, so we were able to like create the language for them characters based on the actors. So we knew that when we got there, it was kind of written with their mannerisms and taken into account. So it worked out for the best. We didn't intentionally do it that way. No, we were just being a bit lazy. Yeah. And then we were like, if anyone asks, watching all the Nightmare on Elm Street. And we thought, if anyone asks, we'll just be like, yeah, that was completely what we were meant to be doing with our new method. We've discovered what we were lazy. And we were like, oh, we better write it now. God, it didn't turn up. And but yeah, I think that's kind of how it came about. So I was originally on board just as an actor, and then Martin asked me to rewrite it and direct.
And then she actually pretty much did rewrite it. I just sat there and watched her write it off. It's like she ended up knowing the story better than me. I'd be like, I've got an, oh right, no, that's better actually. But yeah.
I remember I remember this being advertised on social media for sure. I remember you got quite a high volume of submissions for your audition for all the parts that you had. So I remember seeing on social media that you were praised for your yes or no approach that you had when you were casting this. Can you tell me why you felt that was important to do that for all the actors?
Yeah, I think it's just so important to me, like, because obviously I'm an actor, and I just thought it's just so degrading, and you feel deflated, and it's like, even when you don't, I'd rather get a rejection than not hear anything at all, and then see an announcement or see it. So I'm like, oh right, so I just spent this time, especially when you get to an audition stage or a recall stage. Like, there's been a few auditions that I've done where it's been like, based on the character, write your own monologue and perform it, etc., and then you don't hear back, and it's just a bit like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Am I not? What kind of is it?
And then it's on TV.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, so I didn't get that part then. Thanks. It's just there on TV, and you're like, oh, I wonder if I'm in there. Thanks. So I think it really started to get to me, and I think, I don't know, I just thought, well, I'm just gonna do it myself, and it literally is just me and Martin is the crew, and I took it upon myself to just do a yes or no from a submission stage. So, well, obviously we didn't know at the time the volume of people we would get. So for the first kind of bank of auditions, we put the casting call out for a week, and we got 1,800. So I replied individually, me, to 1,800 emails, because I thought, and you know what, I was like, are you sure you're doing it? I was like, yeah, because I thought, well, I'm going to do it, and if I can do it and manage to get back to these 1,800 people, then
you offered
I'm a crazy person.
Yeah, you offered advice to
feedback from it as well. So it wasn't, I don't know why I did it. Well, yeah, I think it's just because I just thought, well, I would kind of want that, and I think approaching it from an actor's point of view, I think people, especially because it was during lockdown as well, and there was nothing else going on, and people had lost, contracts, jobs, etc. I don't know, I just feel like, I believe, especially if you get to an audition stage, you should at least be told, even if it's a generic email that is sent out and it's not personal, even if it's just, unfortunately, we're not taking you further, any like this, for this role. It's just, even if it's just generic, I just feel like it just gives that person a bit of closure and think, right, on to the next one. So yeah, it was crazy. Like, there was one day where I got kicked out of Gmail because I was emailing like a maniac, and then this message came up, and it was like, you've hit your limit. You can only send 500 emails per 24 hours. And I was like, time for bed. I was just there like a crazy person. But yeah, I think that we got a lot of respect as well from actors for that, because we took
I just sat there doing
time.
nothing.
No, you brought me cups of tea in and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just from an acting point of view, I just felt like I owed it to everyone. And I think as well, because this is our first film and so many people sent us like material in, and I thought, who are we? Like, you're wanting
We're kind of
to
nobodies,
and I just felt like I owed them a thank you for acknowledging us as filmmakers and making us feel like our project was interesting enough for somebody to want to be in. So I think I just felt like I owed it to everybody to kind of, say thank you and acknowledge that they kind of submitted themselves.
Yeah, and great respect to you for doing that, definitely. And I'm sure everyone who auditioned for the film will have greatly appreciated that yes or no response. As you said, closure is important in these things, especially in these times. You want to know where you stand with people, and you want to know if as you said, if you did something wrong, or whether you could have done something to improve. Because it's all about self-improvement. You want to improve as an actor, as a performer, and you want to know what you can do to do that, because you want to be successful. So and actually, believe it or not, guys, it inspired me when I saw the whole process happening for this show. I took a yes or no approach as well, because of what you guys did, and I made sure that everyone who applied to be part of this show was told if they were successful or not. So so it's good. So it's had an impact, and I hope it has an impact on actual cast and directors higher up in the industry as well, hopefully. Georgia, what was it like to, I know you're not quite finished yet, but to inhabit this character of Charlotte, what was it like to play her? Whatever you can tell me again, whatever you can tell me again. But yeah, what was it like to play her?
Well, you're directing it as well, aren't you? Pretty much. I mean, we're kind of 50-50, but like...
Martin, what are you doing? Sorry, Martin.
It's me tea. He drives. No, I think from a character point of view, it has been really difficult mentally, emotionally, because...
Yeah, I used to think that were like a bit pretentious when people said that, but I've seen like Georgia, you know, it has affected you a lot.
Yeah, it really has. I think it's because, you know, like I never thought of myself as one of them actors that's like, oh yeah, it's really like you take it home with you kind of thing. I think it's from my musical theatre background, I tend to just like, you're on stage, put it on, there's an audience there, and you know, you do a bit of work towards it. But I think because I'm so invested in this, and a year of my life has been creating this character and writing the language and what happens to her and her journey, I'm so connected to it that I felt so prepared, as in, yeah, I know what happens, I know who she is. But then when it came to it, it was that pressure of, oh my God, if it's rubbish, it's my fault. But then also I wrote it, and also I directed it, so it's my fault. And I think as well, it just drained me so much because the character just goes through so much. And as well, because I had to be conscious that I was playing a 12-year-old, it was kind of like, right, if I was 12 and in this situation, how would I feel? And it really just, there was times when I had to just go off and just
Some
have a
scenes,
moment, because I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
And we've done obviously research into some of the themes, I won't say too much, you know, in terms of like children, and it just was to take that with you, because we want it to be authentic and real because of the content of it. I think you can't, you know, we didn't want to do something insensitively. So I think it just really, it just affected me. But I think
it affected me because like, I'm there looking at it on a monitor whilst it's being played out, and I actually had to sort of, I got emotional watching it unfold, like this, some of the scenes unfold in front of me, and I had to sort of put the camera down and give her a hug and stuff, because it would just, some of the stuff was just really like traumatizing.
Yeah, I think though it's as well, it's because I couldn't just commit to, obviously I'm committed to the character, but then I had to get in that moment and try and be as raw as possible, but then step out and then direct the other actors and then overwatch what I've just done and then step back into it and then relive what I had to relive to get into that moment again. So it was very chopped up. So it's like, what could have, you know, my process of getting into that emotional state to just as an actor be in it and then be caught and redirected and go again. I had to take myself out of it to observe performances, story, what was going on, and then put myself back into it and then re-go again. So I think it was just draining, but I think really rewarding in a way, because I feel like I'm better for it. I feel I'm more experienced. I feel like I'm proud of my performance, what I've managed to do. And I think it's been exhausting and really difficult.
I think it's been exhausting for both of us as well, because like you mentioned earlier, it's just us. So, you know, all the lighting and the sound and camera is me, and all the acting and directing the story sides, Georgia. So like we kind of, not intentionally, but kind of end up splitting down the middle with that directing, where you'd kind of be on the, you know, the story side and you know, cutting lines and coming up with different, you know, little mini scenes that we'd improvise and stuff like that. Whereas I was kind of more like the visuals side, and you know, thinking about what to do with the camera to kind of, you know, more DOP sort of side of things. But it's one of them things, I think, until you do it, you don't realise why there's such a long list of credits.
Yeah.
It's when it's two of you. It's like,
and I think you can be as prepared as you want to be. You can be the most prepared person in the world, but then when you get there, it kind of goes out the window because you're like, oh my God, I'm here now. And I think when you've invested a year of your life, and you know, obviously we've been through lockdown as well, so that's taken, you know, that's been quite emotional for us in different ways. And I think, and then you're at this point where it's like, it's now or never, right? We've paid for it. Everyone's turned up, go. It's like, oh God, it just, you start to panic about things that you never thought you would panic about, because it's kind of like a now or never situation, because it's like, you kind of want to prolong it for as long as possible, because, you know, part of you's scared of doing it because everybody knows about it, and you kind of like, yeah, we're doing this film and here's the cast and here's what it's about, and then you're thinking, oh no, people are expecting something now, and when there's just two of us, you feel like the pressure's on, because you can't go, oh, it was not our fault,
it was
this
the
guy.
D's fault.
It's all.
Yeah.
So you're like,
sound guy. Honestly, bloody sound guys.
yeah, oh my, it was that sound guy, because it's all literally us. So I think we've taken a break from it, and then we're coming back to it this week for a trailer, because I think it was just, and obviously me watching my own performances back, when you're just an actor and then it's done and you get it, you don't have any opinion on it, that's what it is. But when you've got 12 takes and you've said the one certain word different with a different inflection, you don't know anymore. You're like, because we're editing it as well, I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. And then I'm like,
I suppose it's different, isn't it? If you're an actor, you go on set, film it, go home, and then wait to see what's been done.
Yeah.
Whereas we're like living it the whole way through. So so I think at some point when we're editing, I think it's probably going to have to be me saying, no, shut up, it's good enough. That one is better than that one.
Yeah. So just to finish off, guys, I mean, from what you're saying, like, we want to see it. We want to see this film one day, and we really wish the best of luck in getting it finished, obviously, because times are tougher now and you want to get back on set like we all do and keep going with it. So what is next for the film? Is it just a case of getting back on set and carrying on, and then what about after that? And what's the plan for the film?
Well, we've got all of your scenes with the other main character, played by Dean. So that's all, finished.
Yeah.
We've got kind of a few other scenes that are all sort of finished as well, but we've got like little pickup scenes with Dean and another actor, a couple of other actors actually.
Yeah.
And then we've got a whole kind of different part of the film, like to film that's sort of unrelated to
with other characters that we haven't been able to work with yet because of lockdown. So I think there's 80% of it's done, but we were due to film last week but had to cancel. So I think we're just waiting to get back and complete it. We want it to be done early next year.
January, February.
Yeah, I think we want, there's different routes we want to go down, but I think obviously it all depends on what's going on at the minute, because obviously we've thought about maybe trying to distribute it, because I think big content's not being made anymore, it's been postponed. So we've heard that other distributors are taking applications from indie filmmakers because they don't have content to give out, so that's always an option to try and go down. But then we do quite like the idea of submitting it into festivals and getting our actors like seen in that kind of way. So I think once it's done, I think we're just going to reevaluate what's happening like with the climate and then go from there. I don't think we're in any rush. I think as well, because it's us doing it, there's no time limit. Obviously we want to get it completed, and when we've got the footage, we're eager to kind of go through it. But I think we've got the time to really get it done right and not push it out for any sort of festival deadline. There's quite a few of them. If the film's made within like 3 years, you can still submit. So if we don't quite make the deadlines next year, we can go for it the year after. So we're just going to take our time editing, try and get it as good as we want it.
It's a tricky one because you kind of want that dream of like it going to Netflix or something like that. But then, you know, if you do that, you're kind of missing out on the, you know, the nice, you know, it's in festivals and winning some awards, or you know, getting some kind of recognition in that way. So it's an odd thing to think about, I think. But that part's going to be the exciting part.
Yeah.
Because when you've got something, it's like, well, what do we do with this now?
Yeah.
Where do we where do we take it from there?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Well, honestly, guys, we wish you the best of luck with it. We really do. Like, honestly, good for you for carrying on and keeping on going, and just we're going to get someone out there, and yeah, wish you the best of luck getting back to it, and hopefully you can get it all finished up and sent out.
A trailer as soon as it's ready to share.
Yeah, we'll send you a trailer to it.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, look forward to seeing that. So we'll finish up there with, as always, the life lesson that we can take from this episode, that we can take from what we do in the shadows, if we go back to what we did in the shadows. So life lesson again is genuine this week, because it's a good film, so it's got to be a genuine life lesson. That's the rule of thumb that I'm going with now, I think. So this one actually links as well to, of course, George R. Martin too, and all the people out there who are currently struggling with this lockdown, especially in the industry. And it's just a case of looking at a person like Taika Waititi and seeing their through lines from the short films, the independent films, all the way up to those massive blockbuster films. It is possible. All you need to do is just keep working hard, and most importantly, as we said in the episode, stay true to who you are and stay true to what your vision is for that film or whatever you're working on. So that's the life lesson. You've got to just keep going, keep pushing forward, stay true to who you are, and one day, hey, you might achieve the impossible.
Yeah.
Hey.
I'm going to run for president, I think, in 2024.